Giants 31, Cardinals 28. Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And it's always great to have the first victory podcast of the season, Justin. It's even more thrilling when it comes off of being down 20-0 at halftime. The Giants scored 31 points in 5 drives at the end of the game. Probably could have scored 35 if they really wanted to. Justin, there's a lot that has to be cleaned up. They should have never been in this situation with the Cardinals, and I told myself I wouldn't be happy if the game was close, but damn it, I'm happy.
That was something, huh? that was something, man. What an emotionally draining 2 weeks that we've had as Giants fans, man. But this is a historic win. Like, this is a historic win. Let's forget the opponent and let's ignore everything else right now, because there are some certain black clouds that are over this Giants team. But for right now, this Giants season alive, and that's what matters, that you're 1-1 and you're walking out against Arizona 1-1. And the way that they did win, even though it's like, you know, if you were to tell me the final score before the game, like 31-28, it's like, oh yeah, I'm not really thrilled with that. But if you were going to tell us that we were going to complete one of the best comebacks in NFL history, this is the biggest comeback in Giants franchise history. The first time the Giants have overcome a halftime deficit of 20-plus points to win since like October 30th, 1949. So that's like the pre-Super Bowl era. Crazy, man. Crazy. And Daniel Jones did it. Saquon Barkley did it. Some of our superstar players stepped up to the plate when they needed to. Historic, good win for the Giants, and the season's alive, and that's what matters right now. Good day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if they lose this game, it's
Season's
panic.
over.
And hey, there's still issues, right? Like, and we'll get to it, and mostly when we talk about the defensive side of the ball. But the Giants were at a 60-0 deficit at halftime for the season. Now, the offense really turned it around, and I think this offense has enough talent to compete, right? Like, I don't think they are what they were the first game in the first half of this game. Defensively, I have a lot of worries. But hey, I mean, it starts with Daniel Jones, right? I mean, the first half of the game, he's 11 of 18, 88 yards, 1 rushing yard. And then the second half, he's completing, he's 12 yards per attempt, 58 rushing yards. I mean, it was essentially perfect for the most part.
In the second half today, Daniel Jones threw for 250-plus yards, rushed for 50-plus yards, threw multiple touchdown passes, rushed for a touchdown, and had no turnovers. And this is according to Opta Stats. No other QB in NFL history has done all of that in the second half of a game. Historic.
Historic. Because you got a historic quarterback. Let's just talk about Daniel Jones's performance, and I mean that tells the story of this comeback. First, I want to say this. This is the first victory of the Giants season. And after the Giants' first victory, I always ask our loyal listeners to do something for us.
Sure.
Copy the link to this show and send it to a friend. Send it. Share the podcast. Talking Giants is truly a family. And hey, if this might be your first time listening on your own, it is a family. So we win together, we lose together, but it is a family. It's a show that we like. It's a real community. So tell a friend about the podcast. Thank God we're doing this at 1-1 or 0-2, because 0-2 would be like, man, the family's going to stay small. But let's grow the family. Let's win some games. You're going to have to catch up a little bit, but we're here. So share the podcast with a friend.
Share it with, how about this too? I want to give a shout out, because
I will punish the family. Whoa. Anyways.
Don't punish the family. I want to give a shout out, because this is something that I'll definitely forget to bring up by the end of the show. Shout out to all the Giants fans that were in Arizona. That was really freaking cool. Like, to just see that stadium be taken over in the second half, and like third down and the stadium's loud. Third down for the Cardinals and the stadium's loud, full of Giants fans. So, like, I really do think, like, getting the fans back into it did establish some momentum for the Giants. So, send this podcast to a Giants fan that you know was in Arizona and be like, hey, check these guys out. Love you. Appreciate everybody.
So, yeah, thank you. Seriously, it was like they were making a difference. LPG and Danny were like on it like 5 different times.
Yeah, I love it.
First half and second half with Daniel Jones. Like, the numbers matched the eye test, right? Now, it wasn't like god-awful from Daniel Jones, but it sure as hell wasn't good in the first half. I mean, again, 11 of 18, 88 yards, 4.8 yards per attempt. Second half, 15 and 19, 233 yards, 12.2 yards per attempt. Almost, more than double the yards per attempt. The 0 touchdown, the 1 interception wasn't his fault, then 2 touchdowns in the second half. And then what I thought was a big difference is he was able to make a lot more plays with his legs, and I even have that as a category in my notes. He had 8 carries for 58 yards and a touchdown in the second half. And even got a touchdown taken off the board. He had 1 rush for 1 yard in the first half. I mean, Justin, on the first half, it was bad on all sides, but from the Daniel Jones point of view, he misses Darius Slayton on a deep pass, or underthrew Darius Slayton on a deep pass. And then to me, what was worse than that, because that happens, was on a third down, Jalin Hyatt's open on a post. And this is like a throw you throw to Jalin Hyatt, and he does not throw it, and they end up punting the ball. He wasn't able to create with his legs. There's other contributing factors, like there was a 3rd and 4 where Waller and Shep mess up the mesh. Saquon pops up an interception. But the second half, they start the second half with the deep post to Jalin Hyatt, right? They put Slayton and Waller where they attack the safety, but then cut it off, and because teams are trying to cut that stuff up off underneath, and DJ throws it, 58-yard pass, and I think that really changed the game, was taking that play.
Oh yeah, I mean that was your first play from scrimmage to start the second half, so 100%. And I had some really dark thoughts the first half, and one of them actually was like, looking at Daniel Jones's cap hit in 2024, be like, man, are we really going to be in this situation where he has this $47 million cap hit? Then that second half, you have the ultimate dichotomy, like you said. And, one of the things that they were able to do, and one of the main things that they were able to do in the second half is just be explosive. And what we saw last year, Bobby, with this Giants team having second half comebacks, nothing to the extent of scoring 31 points and like 24 unanswered points, that we, nothing to that extent that we saw last year that we saw today, but they became one-dimensional throwing the ball. And even in some of their comebacks last year, they weren't throwing the ball. They were mostly kind of running the ball, and it kind of became a little bit ass backwards. But Daniel Jones had 4 pass attempts of 20-plus yards, completed 2 of them for 89 yards. The most 20-plus yard attempts he took in a single game last year was 3. So we were stretching the ball downfield. We averaged 9.8 air yards per attempt, 1.4 more than any other game under Brian Daboll so far. Jones averaged 6.3 air yards per attempt last season in Daboll's first year. That was the lowest in the NFL. That's according to Next Gen. And then what was the explosive plays today as I looked that up? Bobby, do you have any thoughts?
Well, no, you had the to the Hyatt, right? I mean, those were the 2 deep passes he contributed. Now there's stuff underneath, and the Hyatt one, man, I really think it changed the way the Cardinals play, because the Cardinals are aggressive in their zone. They play zone, but they're aggressive. We talked about it on the preview pod, and like on that first Hyatt throw, you have Slayton and Waller on the other side of the field, have them tight towards the formation, and they shade the safety to that side, right? And then it's like, okay, Hyatt, go win with the post, because we're going to occupy that safety with Hyatt or with Waller and Slayton, because they're going to try and underneath that. And then they started getting into their play action from under center and getting chunk plays to Waller, Slayton, and Hyatt. But what they did is because, hey, now you got to respect us deep, but now they like to cover that middle of the field, right? That's where most of the chunk plays have come from the Giants out of their play action. Well, the Giants started attacking the sideline out of those play actions, whether it was Slayton stopping on deep curls, which I want to talk a little bit about drive-by-drive stuff, Waller, showing like an over crosser route and then popping it back outside, and then even the other Hyatt play where he got all the way across the formation, but still was on the sideline. He goes and high points it, but again, just didn't have like defenders underneath stopping you from making those throws. And the Giants really adjusted well in the second half to what they were getting defensively, but it started with Hyatt creating some of the space underneath.
Oh yeah, for sure. You mentioned play action, and Next Gen Stats put something out where Daniel Jones had more than 2/3 of his passing yards come off of play action, 229 yards, which is a career high. He averaged 12.1 yards per attempt using play action compared to 5.1 yards per attempt without play action, which I find to be very interesting, Bobby, because that basically all came in the second half. All of the Giants' offense came in the second half. And when you're down by 20 points, when you're losing by 21 points even at one point in the game, the Giants were running play action, and I don't know if it was like quote unquote working. Like were the Cardinals still falling for it? Because I don't know if you're buying into the Giants running when they have to be so one-dimensional when they're down by multiple scores. But at least what it did is I think it allowed Daniel Jones to set deep where you can get away from the pass rush. You can get away from a little bit of a weaker offensive line. They were using Daniel Bellinger a lot as like a pass blocker. He wasn't really going out and running routes. And it was allowing some of these deeper concepts to develop down the field, like Darius Slayton, like Darren Waller, like Jalin Hyatt. And I have the explosive play numbers here too. There were no runs of 10 plus yards or passes of 15 plus yards in the first half. In the second half, there were 4 plays of 25 plus yards, 6 pass plays of 15 plus yards, and 5 runs of 10 plus yards. Creating chunk plays got the Giants back in the game, and it won them the game. But what are your thoughts on that play action stuff that I was talking about?
Well, it just allowed them to do some of their 7-man protections while also occupying linebackers because, getting that under center, play action, and then letting guys get down the field. But even if they're not respecting the run like crazy, but the Cardinals were playing the run pretty well. It at least like their linebackers had to, play their keys, and it allowed the stuff over the middle. And then corners were trying to, chase it, and then they would pop it back outside. But in Hyatt, like we talked about Hyatt, just opening stuff underneath. Hyatt, man, he is a difference maker. Like they don't win this game if he's not on their team. Like, if Jalin Hyatt's not on this roster, not drafted in the 3rd round by the Giants, they probably don't win this game. And we could talk about him creating plays for others, but he made plays for himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he led the Giants in receiving this game with 2 catches. He's averaging 45 yards per catch. We talked about it. He's going to have, that was one of my bold predictions before the season. Like, Jalin Hyatt's going to be top 5 in the NFL in yards per catch. He's probably number 1 right now. We'll see if it stays at 45 freaking yards per catch. But he just... his speed, and coming out of Tennessee, Justin, we're like, how well does it translate? Because he still does have a lot to work on as a route runner and getting off the line of scrimmage. But so you can't just run past guys in the NFL. But no, Jalin Hyatt does run past guys in the NFL. And we said it, Camp changed our point of view where it's like, this guy is going to get in the game and he's going to create big plays. It's just going to happen. Now, the Dallas game where you didn't get one, but he is able to win deep so much that he is just going to create big plays, and then he's hopefully going to continue to create big plays for other guys.
I'm watching the replay right now on that 58-yard pass, not of the broadcast view but it's like the replay afterwards where it just follows Hyatt. He reached 20.48 miles per hour on that play. I still don't think he was running at full speed. I don't think he reached his top gear. So that's awesome, number 1. And Daniel Jones, we saw it in the first half of Darius Slayton. Daniel Jones still needs to get the timing right with some of these receivers where he doesn't miss these guys running deep down the field. Maybe that could have been a touchdown if it was thrown a little further. I don't want to nitpick that. And then even going up and high pointing that ball, that's not something that I was expecting Jalin Hyatt to do. And the fact that he did that, the fact that he went up and he got that football, comes down with the catch clean while draped on the defender was draped on him, that was awesome. And those 2 plays do completely change the game. One of the guys, I would say, out of all the guys that maybe we're going to talk about today, we don't win the game without Jalin Hyatt in those 2 big plays.
Yeah, I also thought one of the biggest differences in the second half from the first half was Daniel Jones' legs. There was because he had all the passing numbers, they don't really pop out, but there was a lot of big plays that he made with his legs. I mean, there was a 3rd and 12 in the third quarter where he runs and he breaks down, the linebacker's got the angle on him, and he breaks down that linebacker just enough to get that leverage and then, bam, shoot to the outside. It wasn't I think he might have either thrown it away or 1-yard gain, but when Kayvon Wallace comes in and blitzes in the red zone and DJ gives that little hop step instead of getting stumbling and tackling, that's a huge play. And then you have the 3rd and goal at the 9 to scramble and get the ball to Saquon to touchdown. That was just both of those guys, one DJ using his legs to extend the play, but Saquon, that linebacker was playing with inside leverage and was wanting to break outside with Saquon. So Saquon shows he's going to work inside, and that gets, and I've watched a lot of stuff about releases and stems on receiving this offseason. And that to me was beautiful, where it's like he's like, hey, I'm going to break inside because the linebacker already has inside leverage, so he shouldn't be looking to fight for inside leverage, but he still bites inside, and then Saquon's able to pop back out. DJ puts the ball on him, then he reaches out, puts the ball on the pylon, touchdown. And then, the play before the Jalin Hyatt 31-yarder, 28-21, it's a 2nd and 11, and DJ has a 15-yarder where you think he's going to go out of bounds. He stays up the sideline. And then again, sets up that Jalin Hyatt 31-yarder.
Great block by Daniel Bellinger, by the way, on that 15-yard run. The block by doesn't happen without Daniel Bellinger blocking downfield and opening some stuff up for DJ. So that was a great job.
Yeah, so I just thought, we spent a lot of time talking about Daniel Jones to start this pod, but for again being a 60-0 deficit, and as bad as week 1 was, and he didn't look great in the first half. Now, the first half was kind of one of those typical, like, damn it, it's like just one or two little things goes wrong and it screws the Giants, right? Which has kind of been the issue with the Giants offense the last few years, is like they kind of got to play perfect. And they just weren't doing that, right? And I want to talk about this. There was some coaching stuff I did not love. Like that first drive of the game, they get the false start, they get the 3rd and 2. Good job, Giants offense. I'm surprised they don't get under center and hand that ball off to Saquon.
Yeah, they went like first 4 plays were all out of the shotgun.
And then 4th and 2 at the Cardinals 47, and you punt the ball away. Like that was very un-Daboll-like.
That's just a not. I agree with you, but that's just like, oh, I don't trust anything we're doing right now. That's why I'm punting.
Yeah, and then there's a 3rd down that was messed up by Waller and Shep on the mesh point, and then
can I even say
they're
something
driving,
too?
And they were going to make it. They might have made a 17-7 or 17-3. Saquon pops it up, interception. They get a field goal, 20-0. Like that could have been if the Giants are down 17-7 at the half, and they ended up winning anyways. But I'm like, the Giants are going to win this game. Down 20-0, I'm like, the Giants' season is over.
Yeah, dark thoughts in the first half. But one of my main thoughts and takeaways from the first half, and I guess this is, this was a first takeaway from like the first 6 quarters of the game. Everything just looked so slow developing on offense. Like the running, especially everything like out of the shotgun, I'll say. RPOs extremely slow, like Daniel Jones keeping that ball in Saquon Barkley's belly, and it looked lackadaisical. The time behind the line of scrimmage for Saquon Barkley when running out of the shotgun just seemed to be a lot, but really, particularly on those RPOs, it just slowed everything down. And there was a Darren Waller drop where he got hit hard, but it's one of those things where it's like, dude, take the ball out of Barkley's belly and just get rid of the ball. Why are we holding on to the ball for so long during these RPOs? And of course, the second half, everything, the pace picks up, everything picks up. I feel like the whole game they were running with pace and they were calling plays pretty rapidly, but that was one of my main thoughts in the first half. It's just everything was just so slow developing, and you're just giving the defense all the time in the world to recognize what's happening here.
Well, you're talking about differences of playing style in the first half and second half, and that's going to lead to, Brian Daboll was calling plays in the second half. So let's talk about that. Before we talk about that, Justin, I want to talk about Chris's Coffee. Coffee, it's a family-run, local New York-based coffee roaster and the leading importer of Italian-made espresso machines and service provider. I'm very happy that they are on this show because I honestly felt bad for Chris after last week's game. I was like, oh, he didn't want to pay for a 40-0 loss ad read. No, he paid for a 20-point comeback ad read. And Chris Coffee is the best. I'm going to be drinking it tomorrow morning. I have to get up early. We're to recap a Giants win, football today, all that good stuff. The coffee is from bean to brew, baby, meaning that they import their own beans in-house, roast it, pack it, and ship it right to your ass. Roasting capacity at their brand new 64,000 square foot facility is now upwards of 2,300 pounds of coffee per hour. I might rent a room out of there. Chris Coffee also sells coffee grinders, blenders, brewers, filters, teas, syrups, replacement parts, and everything you need to get your home espresso setup off the ground. And beginning today, use the code JOHNBOY at checkout to receive a free 1 pound bag of our brand new giant Java coffee with any order $50 plus free shipping. Discounts can't be combined with any other offers. These guys are Giants fans. Like, they got the giant Java. If you're in the market for an espresso machine, grinder, or just a great tasting coffee, talk to the espresso coffee experts at www.chriscoffee.com. That's Chris Coffee, not Chris's Coffee, chriscoffee.com. They've assembled a passionate world-class sales team eager to help guide your espresso journey. You'll be glad you did. Okay, this is one of those annoying things where no one can really say definitively, but people will say definitively. Brian Daboll was asked if he was calling plays in the second half. He denied it. He said he wasn't. Didn't deny. He said he wasn't. Now, he did bring up that he's like, oh, I hold the call sheet all the time. And no one asked about the call sheet.
He doesn't.
But it was going around that Daboll was calling plays in the second half. Because, I mean, anytime they did show him on the offense, he did kind of have, like, call sheet in front of his mouth and was, talking into it. Now, that happens. I don't think it's impossible, right? Like, it's hard to say for sure, and I do want to go back and watch some of the film. I can't decide if I want to be up till 2 a.m. looking for every time the camera showed Daboll, but I did see in the beginning, like, he does have a call sheet with him at all times. It's not like he said, give me a play call sheet and go lay it, but we did see him putting his mouth up. But there's always communication between the head coach and offensive coordinators and stuff like that. So I don't know, but I also don't think it's impossible that he did.
At one point, the camera was on him in the second half, and he was very much like deliberately talking into his headset with the play call sheet up to his mouth. And then the camera cut to Jones in the huddle, and then it looked like Jones was about to look to the sideline for something or for some reason, but then the camera cut away. So I don't know. I tried rewatching the second half, and there was a bunch of things I was trying to rewatch for, and that was one of them to see if I could pick up any tendencies. I didn't really. I'm screen recording the entire game right now because I want to try and do a video for JM Football. So I'll keep an eye out for if I see in the first half if he was doing anything different, or if he was not talking to his headset so much in the first half. I don't know, Bobby. It's going to be one of those things where I think we'll find out eventually whether it's true or whether it's not, and I'm not gonna put too much like stress on if it happened or if it didn't. Because we've said for 2 years now, Bobby, that the script of plays are already basically decided. Like, this is Brian Daboll's offense. It's kind of Mike Kafka as play caller who's just pushing the buttons and calling which plays exactly when, right? So that's why I don't really stress it too much.
Yeah, I will say last week what they were calling was a lot different than what they did last year. When I'm speaking of the Dallas game, like, what they were calling was a lot different. Today we saw a lot of similar things to last season. So, and
even thinking back to Daboll in Buffalo too, like, think of how much play action that they ran, up there. And that's what we saw in the second half, is just play action to death, regardless of whether you have a run game or not, or regardless of whether the run is even a possibility when you're down by 21 points. They were just doing it. And Waller was open, Hyatt was open, Slayton was open. There were a bunch of guys that were open for it.
So regardless if he did or not, even if he did, I don't see it being like, okay, Daboll's taking over play calls for the rest of the year. I think there'd have to be more bad things to happen for them to get to that point. Other things on the offense. Saquon, had that big run at the end.
And then 2 plays later gets hurt, which that sucks.
Yeah, so it's a sprained ankle. It looked like it. The Schefter reported that they don't think it's a high ankle sprain. But a sprained ankle, sometimes, adrenaline can take over for a little bit, but that was right away. Saquon absolutely knew it. He's missing games, Justin. And it'll be interesting to see. Not interesting. They're gonna have to work this, and they're playing some tough teams. I kind of hate they have to turn around and play Thursday. I just want to enjoy this win, because the 49ers are really freaking good. But yeah, obviously he's a big loss. But you posted, and I agree with you 100%, man. And hopefully, do not force Saquon Barkley back, because history has always shown that that's never a good idea for the Giants.
It's not a good idea for him. Just he's not a very good running back when playing injured and playing hurt. And this has nothing to do with Saquon Barkley's toughness. In fact, it
speaks more to his toughness.
It's a compliment.
Like even 2019, he came back from that sprained ankle way too early, but he didn't look good coming off of it.
Yeah. I mean, even last year, when Saquon Barkley was going through, what was it? I think it's like a shoulder injury or something.
Yeah, the shoulder.
So he just didn't look good. And then as, December comes around, he starts to look better, and they don't give him as much of a workload. But when they were giving him 17, 18, 19, 20 carries a game towards the middle part of last year, and he was really going through it with that shoulder, that's when Saquon Barkley was at his worst. He's not a player that performs well when he is hurt. But before we even get to talk about that, we'll have time to, we'll wait for the official injury designation. It was really cool to see that even in the second half, when the Giants were so throw heavy, hate the first half when he drops that, when another interception goes through his hands.
3 interceptions this year, 2 of them popped up out of Saquon's hands. Insane.
Yeah.
That was like this is really what's just going to happen? The Giants are going to be down again, 0 points and 2 interceptions like this?
Yeah. But obviously more than made up for it in the second half. And that was a superhero run, where that final drive of the game, the Giants are at a point where we're not throwing the ball. Come on, line. This is why you lift all them weights, Bill Parcells. This is what you want as an offensive lineman, is to be in a situation that the Giants were in that last drive of the game, where the Cardinals have 3 timeouts, and all you need to do is get a couple first downs. Graham Gano's going to kick a field goal, and you win the damn game. And, offensive line answer the call at times. But that particular play where Saquon Barkley had that 15-yard run on that final drive, that was a hero run. We criticize him for not breaking tackles. He broke 4 tackles on that run. 4. 2 of them at the line of scrimmage, 2 of them down the field. 15-yard run puts the Giants in great position to kick a field goal, and puts them in that optimal spot. So that was some superstar shit by Saquon. It absolutely sucks that 2 plays later, on a second and 13, twists his ankle up, and man, that's kind of like the life of a running back, man, and it kind of sucks.
And we mentioned him, he had the touchdown catch that he had. He had that 1-yard touchdown run too. But his gravitational pull created the Isaiah Hodgins touchdown. Go back and watch that. They motioned Saquon Barkley out, and part of me was like, oh no, because Saquon's not a great red zone route runner, especially when you line him out wide and not coming out of the backfield. I'm like, oh no. So the safety rotates, and because he was running those choice routes where you go outside or in, they bracket him, right? So they got one guy on both sides to stop Saquon, and that safety no longer has that middle of the field presence. Waller's up the seam on the opposite side. Hodgins, bam, plants that foot, post. DJ puts it on his ass, touchdown. And Hodgins is getting really good at running those post route touchdowns.
Yeah.
There's nothing better. I'm telling you, I like it more than deep passes. Just banging in a post. Get that safety out of there. Fire that in there. That was beautiful. And Hodges had some tough catches. The first play of the game was a nice tough catch. Hit another one on the second drive where he got up the sideline. And I know, Waller, Darren Waller in this game, we haven't even talked about him. He had 6 catches for 76 yards. Had some big catches over the middle. Slayton had 3 catches for 62 yards. He could have had 90 more yards if DJ doesn't miss them on 2 throws. He had the 2 deep curls, one with Yak, and then an underrated play in the game before that Saquon run at the end of the game was Darius Slayton 18-yard pass, runs a great route, releases, stacks the corner, curls. DJ puts it right on him where the ball's on him as soon as he turns around.
Yes, as soon as he comes out of that break. And this is credit to Darius Slayton, where he even catches that ball out of bounds, and he's gotten a lot of flack, and he's gotten a lot of hate about his hands the last couple of years. That play that you're referencing comes right out of his break and is able to catch that ball. Great chemistry, great timing by quarterback and wide receiver there. But, I mean, that's not an easy catch. That ball's there. When, the second you turn your head and you're not expecting the ball, you're expecting the ball, whatever. He locates it, catches it, and again, another game difference making play right there.
Yeah, so I thought all the receivers, or at least the outside guys, did a fairly solid job.
Yeah, Paris Campbell.
And then again, Waller was, creating stuff over the middle, and, had a big catch on the sideline for 25 yards. That was nice too. Hey, and guess what? We're 30 minutes into this pod, Justin, and we're going to talk about an offensive line that had Josh Ezeudu at left tackle, Marcus McKeithen at right guard, and Mark Lewinsky at left guard at the end of the game. I think that's a success that we're 30 minutes in the pod and we're not talking about the offensive, after we saw maybe one of the worst offensive line performances we've seen since covering the Giants for the last 5 years. I gotta go watch intently on the offensive line, but they gave him enough time to make all those passing plays that we talked about, right? Like Ezeudu's feet look good. And with Ezeudu, like the biggest thing with Ezeudu was because I didn't think Ezeudu would struggle down in, down out at left tackle, right? Because he's got the foot speed, he's got solid balance. My worry with Ezeudu was not the down in, down out, that he was going to have the one or two plays where you get that blindside Daniel Jones smack fumble type plays. Those were the words, and we never saw that. And obviously DJ escaped to his right a lot. McKeithen I thought looked solid. Evan Neal wasn't horrible in pass protection, but penalty after penalty after penalty. I mean, he took 2 touchdowns off the board.
Yeah.
Like that, there was that first one that put him in the 3rd and goal to 9. That was going to be a Saquon Barkley touchdown run. Like, it was there. And then the Daniel Jones rushing touchdown, he gets a holding penalty. And again, I have to go watch more intently because Evan Neal could have been really bad. But at least it wasn't Dallas bad against these bad Cardinals pass rushers.
Yeah, I tried keeping my eye out for the 3 of them, Neal, McKeithen, and Ezeudu. Still think Neal looks top heavy, man. He just doesn't look like a strong football player.
He does. He didn't go out there and look like an improved player. He just looked like. Again, after that week 1, we've lowered the bar for Neal. It's like, can you hold up in protection against bad pass rushers? Which
I guess he can, but against good pass rushers like we're going to be facing the next couple of weeks, no. I mean, no. It's going to be a problem. So. Yep. I'm interested. Hey, this is crazy. They're not going to do this, but if they're serious about competing for this year, dude, I'm starting to think Josh Ezeudu may not be as much of a disaster at right tackle than Evan Neal. I'm starting to think it. I got
to watch it more closely before I say anything like that. And
Ezeudu was getting to his landmarks most of the time.
I have memories of 2020, and it's like, man, Matt Parrott looks pretty good out there. And
yeah,
once you put out some film, and it's just not the same. But Marcus McKeithen, I'm really excited to go watch him because obviously he has the size. He's not the most athletic guy, but he has size. And then Lewinsky got put in at left guard. So we'll. The film review the O-line report this week will be Ezeudu at left tackle, McKeithen at right guard will be the primary focus of it.
Yeah, I thought McKeithen and Neal, there were at times where they were moving people in the run game.
Right side. And
it was really fun. And there were times where I thought, there was maybe some guys that came in blitzing that McKeithen didn't pick up, but I think McKeithen just looked okay. And I think that's like my main takeaway from his first game. There were John Michael Schmitz. I'm interested to see, in the O-line report. I don't know if you're going to do a segment on him or you're going to talk about him all that much, but John Michael Schmitz I thought looked really, really good. And there were some times where I saw him pancaking dudes and getting in dudes' faces. So JMS is really, really fun. And that was a scary Ben Bredesen play too. I hope he's okay. We need him to be okay. Probably won't be okay for Thursday.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect him for Thursday.
Mark Lewinsky continues not to give a shit. So
also, now we have a trend of Andrew Thomas where he's a game-time decision and doesn't play. So next time that he's in a game-time decision, I'm just assuming he's not going to play. Are we ready to talk about the defense?
I want to give a shout-out to Daniel Bellinger. I mentioned on that 15-yard Daniel Jones run that he was out there blocking. I want to give myself a pat on the back because I mentioned in the mailbag that one of the adjustments that the Giants offense can make is leaving Daniel Bellinger in as a pass blocker. And I think the majority of the plays that he was in today, he was in for more than you would think. Don't think he had a catch, but I also don't know how many routes he actually ran because he was in there blocking, and it was mostly on the right side, helping out Evan Neal. So maybe Evan Neal's day does look, and his line will look a lot better on PFF because he had Daniel Bellinger on that right side helping him out, which is something the Giants offense just may need to live with and may need to do from now on. Paris Campbell and his role is going to be really interesting, especially as Wan'Dale Robinson is possibly going to be coming back. And where does Jalin Hyatt, because you want Jalin Hyatt to go on the field more, so where does Jalin Hyatt fit into it? Are you going to put Jalin Hyatt in the slot and just put him in motion at the snap? There was a lot of fun things the Giants were doing with motion at the snap today too, where one of Slayton's big plays came where he was in motion at the snap. Hyatt's, some of his big plays came when he was at motion at the snap. So the Giants were doing some fun stuff with motion at the snap, and Paris Campbell made some nice plays, but there were also some drops that he had, and his role is going to be interesting in this wide receiver room. And that's basically it. Daniel Jones showing grit. That was and just him being fired up. Like that, when he scored that touchdown that wasn't a touchdown, Bobby, that rushing touchdown, and he screams, like that's emotion that we don't really see a lot out of Daniel Jones, but man, it just seemed like he took it personally to will this Giants team back, and that was really, really cool to see as a person and as a Giants fan who just roots for Daniel Jones. It was cool to see him show that emotion and wear his heart on that sleeve for a hot second. And then you told me before we recorded, he's calmed down enough during that post-game presser to talk about it like it's just a regular Tuesday afternoon presser. So that's why I love the guy.
All right, we got to talk about this defense. Why don't you talk to us about something else?
I'll talk to you about something else, Bobby Skinner. Miracle Made. That's right. Did you know that your temperature at night can have one of the greatest impacts on your sleep quality? Oh boy, I knew it. Inspired by NASA Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Miracle Made nicely sent us some sheets, Bobby. I gave it to my mom. I said, Mom,
I love them.
Try it. Let me know how it is. And she tells me all the time, Justin, I love these sheets that you gave me. I'm never changing them. I'm washing them every week, but I'm never changing them. Never changing them because it's self-cleaning and designed for your skin. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, which can clog your pores, allowing them to stay cleaner and fresh for 3 times longer than other sheets. So I guess she doesn't need to wash it every week. Luxurious comfort and quality Miracle Sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands. Go to trymiracle.com/Giants to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, for your order today, you could save over 40%, and if you use our promo GIANTS at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Giants and use their code GIANTS to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40%. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Giants to treat yourself. Thank you to Miracle Made for sponsoring this episode. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. The Giants defense. They have 0 sacks through 2 games. They have 0 interceptions.
Sure.
This unit doesn't generate pass rush and has a crazy amount of miscommunications. I mean, they can't deal with a rub route or a switch release. Like, this is the team when we were in training camp, right? And we're like, the Giants offense looks great. The Giants offense looked like it did today. But we finally had a point. It's like, okay, but can we have one day where the defense makes some plays? And that day didn't come. And that's what this defense looks like, right? And I want to speak to the miscommunications before we talk about lack of pass rush and individual performance. There was 5 and there's probably more others. And there was some in the Dallas game too. McFadden and Adoree had one of the worst I've ever seen, where they motion the tight end to one side. McFadden chases it. They run a slant flat. McFadden chases the flat into man. Adoree just stays on the sideline picking up the flat, and it leaves the slant wide open. Then Adoree goes with Banks. They get a completion on a slant on a 1st and goal where Adore's in the slot, Banks is on the outside, and they run slant flat again. And Adore, for some reason, out of nowhere, is going to undercut it and takes it over the top, and then picks Deontay Banks, and it leads to a slant. The rubber out for a touchdown to Hollywood Brown. Adore got caught on that. Like the Adore thing, we talked about Adore being in the slot. How does it work? It's kind of had more of a negative impact on Adore than anyone else.
He's not a slot corner.
Deontay Banks and Bobby Okereke, they had that switch release on the tight ends. They didn't know which way to go. They get a first down. And then the one that they didn't convert on, and they're lucky because this could have changed the game. That first drive of the game where they ended up missing a field goal. They almost had a touchdown to Zach Ertz, right? Why was Zach Ertz so wide open? They ran post wheel. The Giants were in cover 4. Banks should have stayed on the sideline. He chases the post, and it leaves it wide open. Like when you're drawing up on the board, that's what you're hoping. Is like, hey, we want to trick this outside corner, and that's what they did. And I'm sure when I go back and watch all 22, there's going to be some more. If there was that many that were like playing on broadcast view, like there was a crazy amount of miscommunication. Like this defense, like that's got to get coached up and figured out because it is really bad, and that's going to happen when you have young guys on the outside and stuff. But a lot of it was involving Adore, and maybe Adore is the one that's right and everyone else is wrong. But damn, it was blatant how many times that happened.
Yeah, it was really disappointing because after Dallas, where I thought the defense didn't necessarily play horrible, we didn't really get a chance to see Dallas run like a legit offense because they basically were up 16-0 as soon as you blinked. And they had like a red zone stand too against Dallas. So I was like, all right, I'm excited to see this defense hopefully dominate, in more of a game neutral situation. And man, they just didn't. And I'm even looking at Josh Dobbs's spray chart right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pass attempts behind the line of scrimmage. There were some other ones near the line of scrimmage, but like this is a game where I was expecting screens to be thrown galore because what happened to the Wink Martindale defense that dictates the terms of the game? We were both asking that in the first half, Bobby. Why are we playing so lackadaisical and allowing the Cardinals to do whatever they want and dictate the terms of the game? Oh yeah, that was the major frustrating point of the first half.
We thought this was going to be a Wink Martindale comes in and just destroys this quarterback who's not meant to be out there. And I mean, there was like 3rd and 7 when it was 0-0, and Wink just rushes forward and drops in the quarters coverage. Like they allowed Dobbs to stay in rhythm, and the pass rush was non-existent outside of Dex too, which is like it'd be one thing if you're doing that and your front 4 is getting there, but the front 4 wasn't getting there outside of Dex, and they just did not. Like, pressure breaks pipes, and it was Wink Martindale was not calling a defense like he was Wink Martindale. It was just kind of sitting back, playing zone. You know, if it was man coverage, we're rushing forward, and we're maybe dropping Kayvon to throw a little different look at them. But yeah, I mean, like again, you allowed Josh Dobbs to just stay on schedule consistently, and anytime you did put a little heat on him, he folded, right? Which wasn't very often, but anytime you did put heat on him, he folded. And I was waiting for it. I was like waiting for it, just like, hey, let's bring the heat on this dude and let's force a bad play. Because every time he got under pressure, he had issues.
Yeah, which is what you want to do against bad quarterbacks. And Josh Dobbs is not a good quarterback. Made him look like a good quarterback, and there's going to be Cardinals fans that are going to be coming away from this game being like, all right, are we going to be able to survive at quarterback with Josh Dobbs? And that's really unfortunate that Giants fans are allowing Cardinals fans to have that conversation. It really is unfortunate. There was one like 1st and 10 or it was a 1st and 10 in the first half where Wink Martindale just kind of sent guys and Micah McFadden got like a low hit on Josh Dobbs, forcing a completion. And it's like, yeah, like let's do that. Like let's do more of that. Why are we allowing a bad offense to dictate the terms of this game? And I even wanted them to press more. Like, because when you're playing so far back and you're leaving so much separation from wide receiver to corner, it's allowing those little slants to happen, with Hollywood Brown over the middle of the field and, not even playing up on Zach Ertz. And, I think it was McKinney that was like sometimes responsible for Zach Ertz. And he was just always wide open down the field. But then when we would press, Bobby, we need to figure out how to beat these pick plays. Like just getting picked, and that's how guys are able to create separation there. Whenever we are playing press, it's 2 weeks in a row where teams have been able to run kind of like these pick plays on us, and it just leads to big plays. It's not good, man. And we haven't even talked about the run defense yet.
Well, yeah, and the run. Well, let's finish with the pass rush.
Yeah.
This is maybe, hopefully, I do hope, but Kayvon, where are you? Leonard Williams, where are you two?
Leonard Williams stinks this year. He's not good.
And they're not playing them like they played 56. Dex and Leo played 56% of the snaps together. Dex played 73% total. Leo only played 60%. They also, the first 2 touchdowns of the game, they weren't on the field. Why is Dex and Leo not on the field on a goal line run? And then the second touchdown was the Josh Dobbs rushing, which is you're not going to blame it not being on Dex and Leo on the field. But at the same time, it was coming out of the first quarter, and then they come back from the first quarter, and then Daboll challenges it. So you have all that rest. I understand wanting to give these guys a breather, but I felt hey, they probably are pretty fresh right here. And they end up scoring a touchdown on that. And maybe a Dex pressure or whatever makes a difference on allowing that touchdown or not. But, man, I'm gonna in my film review, not in the film review, but in my study this week, I'm going to be I'm going to have watch speed run, watch every Kayvon snap and see what the hell happened here.
Well, I mean, even the interior defensive line rotation, it was one of the more confusing things that I've seen this coaching staff do. You mentioned the snaps that Dex and Leo played. They played 56% of the total snaps together. This is from Doug Analytics, by the way. And then A'Shawn Robinson and Nacho, they played 17% of the snaps together. 11 out of the 63. And then plus, you had DJ Davidson out there. I really hope Jordan Riley was not a healthy scratch to give DJ Davidson this run that he doesn't deserve. There had to be an injury. I'm telling this to myself.
DJ Davidson homecoming to Arizona.
Because why are we relying on DJ Davidson playing significant snaps in the first half when you have 4 interior defensive linemen in front of him, all getting substantial money, ahead of him on the depth chart? Why is that happening? Why?
Yeah, I don't get it.
And using three defensive lineman formations because they have to. Number one, the Cardinals are a very run-heavy team, which is fine. Use those 3 defensive lineman formations, and then you have Azeez Ojulari, who's out, so that's why you're going to rely on those 3 defensive lineman formations. A lot of Jihad Ward, Kayvon Thibodeau, he's your workhorse edge, right? So you're going to rely on those 3 defensive lineman formations, but just playing DJ Davidson and being so bad against the run while playing those 3 defensive lineman formations, when I think that besides getting explosive on offense, Bobby, the most attention that this front office gave, in terms of trying to improve an area of a team, it was stopping the run.
Well,
Bobby Okereke and the interior defensive lineman that they added.
Well, let's talk about the run defense. James Conner had 23 carries for 106 yards and a touchdown. There's a bunch of different factors. I mean, one, James Conner was able to break tackles and bounce. I saw people praising Micah McFadden, and what game were you watching? I mean, Micah McFadden missed multiple tackles, and I saw him get blown up in the run game a couple times. That was and Okereke in the first half was getting beat in the run game.
Really
now,
bad.
The fourth, the end of the third, start of the fourth, all of a sudden Okereke started playing with his hair on fire and was blowing stuff up and making plays.
Yeah, really.
But also
good
that defensive pass interference, which was what are you doing? I don't understand.
What's the plan there?
I mean, basically the only good run defense was Dex making a play here or there, and then Jason Pinnock had 3 tackles for a loss off the edge. And also I thought the corners were fit in the run very bad. Banks had multiple times where it's not going to be seen, but it's Banks, and it's not going to be remembered because he's an outside corner, but Banks was just getting blocked up or not filling in the hole where he's supposed to, and I thought Dory missed a couple on that. But yeah, that was I did the pregame Q&A live stream this morning, and someone asked me a question, was what is something something that could, if it disappoint, that could disappoint that would be really troublesome. And I was like, well, besides the right side of the offensive line, because that's obviously bad. It'd be like, if the Cardinals, James Conner's a good back, but if the Cardinals shouldn't be a team that is able just to run on the Giants. And that's what they did. They just were able to run on the Giants. And if Micah McFadden makes those plays, maybe it looks a lot worse, but they did not make those plays. And they were able to, stay on schedule. Like the Cardinals offense until the fourth quarter was able to stay on schedule.
And you have the San Francisco 49ers next Thursday.
We need some fluky stuff. I need like some, I don't care if it's the biggest fluke in the world. I need a win.
They shouldn't throw the ball.
Yeah.
They shouldn't.
Well, no, they should, because they are able. I mean, the Giants' pass defense hasn't been great. Here, you want to know something? The Giants helped the defense out a lot towards the end of the game, and you usually don't say this when you're on this side of it. Penalties were helping the Giants out a lot. Like that block in the back on the play
saved the game.
There was a lot of false starts and stuff. And there was a couple of Adore, I don't think had pass interference, but Adore's reaction to that pass interference call, because Adore flipped and walked straight towards the referee. Like, seriously, if he doesn't have that reaction, he doesn't pick that flag up.
Oh no,
that was like, oh, maybe I did screw that up. I was a little too heavy, and I don't think it was a pass interference anyway. So good job, but they got some help from there. Do you have anything else, Justin? Again, it's just no pass rush and miscommunications, and then not stopping the run. Like there's still worries about this offense, right? Like
defense,
but the defense is the main. Like the Cardinals just put 28 points on you, and it wasn't by like a play here or there. Like they kind of moved the ball consistently until the end of the game.
No, there's worries about everything.
Yeah, but the defense more so than anything.
Yeah, no, 100%. I will say Dexter Lawrence just took over in the second half, was just making run stop after run stop and pressure after pressure. Really cool to just see him take over that game in the second half. Bobby Okereke really did have a good second half after having a very rough first half, so that was cool to see. I thought Isaiah Simmons played well.
Third down tackle machine.
And I think the biggest area that he made his impact was being a good tackler in the open field, where the Giants did have a lot of trouble just tackling guys today in general.
I will say he tackles very, thankfully he had the sideline as his friend. If he was in the open field, I might have been a little worried. He doesn't tackle. He just kind of runs into guys with his forearms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if he was in the open field, maybe some of the missed tackle issues that he's shown over the years would have showed up, but thankfully it was toward the sidelines, because if it was in the middle of the field, it's like, man, this guy's tackling form is god awful. He doesn't bend his knees at all, and he just kind of throws his forearms into them.
Seems like Trey Hawkins had a good game.
Yeah, thankfully he dropped that interception, but that was really nice to see that, and he tracked that ball really well too. He just didn't catch it. I thought Hawkins had a better game than Banks. But at least Banks didn't have the big play gave up, but there was a couple catches I thought he allowed, and then a couple mistakes, mental mistakes. All right, Justin, that's an episode. Make sure that you told your freaking friends about this, or I'm gonna be pissed off. I'm gonna be big time PO'd. But we'll have an offensive line report out, film review. And then no mailbag this week because we played Thursday night. We're going to be live Wednesday around 6:30 or so for the preview pod, and then we'll recap another Giants victory as they go 2-1 Friday morning. So Can you imagine? I kind of need it. Because it's like I want this feel. I can't let this feeling go. I can't go from this feeling to getting your ass kicked by the 49ers in a 4-day period. If it was a Sunday game, it'd be a little. I would need a win less if it was a Sunday game, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I still can't believe that this. All right, show's over. I still can't believe that this happened. I was in a really, really dark. I actually didn't react to us winning the game until about 5 minutes after the game, because I didn't want to get so invested where I would get hurt if we lost the game.
I knew we were winning the game once we got it to 28.
You said you knew.
I had confidence. All right. That's an episode.
We'll see you Wednesday.
We'll see you guys Wednesday. We appreciate you. Make sure, again, tell your friend, or I'll take care. Just don't trust me. If you don't tell a friend, we're gonna have issues. Appreciate you guys. We will see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.